What we just witnessed in Tua is a clear sign of head trauma tonight. And I'm extremely frustrated and upset about this, as well as just genuinely worried for Tua's well being. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Suter. If you're new here and you enjoy learning about sports medicine topics, then please be sure and subscribe to stay up to date with my future videos. What we witnessed tonight on the field with Tua is extremely hard to watch. It's something that is extremely serious, and this is clear and obvious signs of head trauma. Of course, I uploaded a previous video talking about what we saw happen last week with Tua. Of course, he fell, hit his head. There was this whole controversy about back injury versus a concussion, but was cleared from a concussion and now was playing in a game just, I think, 4 days later. On this play, Tua falls backward and basically hits his head on the turf again, kind of similar to what we saw happen last week. It's a combination of whiplash, his head striking the turf. So again, a clear mechanism for a brain injury, brain trauma. What we witness afterwards then with Tua having his hands sort of contorted in that awkward position is what we call posturing, right? This is similar to the fencing response that we can see, these abnormal posturings that occur in the setting of significant brain injuries or concussion. His fingers are rigid like that because of this continuous electrical signal being sent to those muscles as a result of that head trauma. We saw something like this with Donald Parham last year, where he was having those shaking kind of tremors of his arms. And so this is on that same scale of what we can see in the body and the limbs as a result of trauma to the brain. Whenever there's a concussion, all these signals just start to fire and discharge in the brain. And so you can get patterns of abnormal electrical activity that result in these posturing patterns, the fencing response, or just the arms and fingers locked in a certain position because of that increase in the muscle tone from the nerve signals. In this situation, right, we don't know if Tua is responsive at all. He could be completely unconscious. I frankly didn't see a moment when they were taking him off on the stretcher where it looked like he responded or was moving his legs. Obviously, we saw him taken off on the spine board. And remember, in these situations, if an athlete is unconscious, we have to assume that there could be a neck injury, even though there was nothing about this play that looked overly traumatic to the cervical spine itself. We can see they've taken off the face mask because, again, in transport, you don't want to have any risk if there is a cervical spine injury of the athlete stopping their breathing. You need to make sure you can put a breathing tube in. And so we see that they've also removed his face mask. Part of clearing somebody's neck or cervical spine is that they can answer questions reliably. So if they're unconscious, then you have to assume worst case scenario and put them on the spine board. This is really hard for me to talk about and not get extremely frustrated and just emotional about the situation because of everything that happened last week. We know that when somebody is returning from a head injury, if they return too soon before they've recovered, they can have another head injury and be more susceptible to those symptoms, right? We've all heard about something called second impact syndrome, while extremely rare, can be extremely serious. I'm very glad that on the broadcast, they got somebody out there to say that that posturing with his hands was a clear sign of brain trauma, because the public needs to hear that. The public needs to be aware of this, as I think most people are watching it. I don't know what the response is going to be going forward with this whole investigation from last week. Obviously, at the moment, the biggest concern is just Tua's health and well-being. I'm sure they're going to get him to the hospital, do scans to look and see if there's any bleeding inside the brain. I will say bleeding wouldn't develop quickly enough to directly cause that posturing. And so hopefully those scans will turn out to be normal. But this is still very suggestive of a significant brain trauma, a significant concussion. Along with those tests, right, they're going to have to clear his neck as he becomes more alert. They're going to have to make sure that there's no other injuries that he's sustained. And then obviously in this case, there can be no denying it. You're in the concussion protocol, right? We talk about those no-go signs. This is clearly one of them. That posturing that we see is a clear outward sign that can help you and tell you that there's been brain trauma. Hopefully things are okay, and this is another learning situation to make these protocols better, because this is extremely scary to watch as a sports medicine doctor. It's extremely scary to watch as just a sports fan. And I, number one, hope things are okay. But then number two, hope that this is a time to make things better and to improve this whole situation and improve athlete safety. That's it for the video, everybody. Let me know, as always, any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later.